Good morning. Open up your books to March to the Sea. Today we are going to learn more about General Sherman and how he led his Union troops through Georgia, all the way through Georgia to the city of Savannah, which was by the sea. Before we get started, we're going to do our quick write. It says, describe a time when you wanted something so badly that you would do anything to get it. What did you want, and what were you willing to do? Take 1 to 2 minutes to write down 3 to 4 sentences describing this time in your life. Press pause to finish writing down your answer and play when you're ready for the vocabulary. We have 3 vocabulary words today. Our first word is pen. Pen has multiple meanings. It's something that you could write with, but it could also be a cage or like a pen for your animal. And the verb to pen something is to trap it or to put it in a cage. The second word is ruthless. That is having or showing no pity or compassion for others. When you do not feel sorry for people, you are ruthless. And the last one is tarnish, to lose or cause to lose luster, especially as a result of exposure to air or moisture. Today we're going to talk about how a military general's reputation became tarnished, which means that people no longer thought of him as amazing. They thought of him as less than amazing or damaged. Just like with every nonfiction text, we want to monitor our thinking. So we're going to ask a how or why question about the title to try to determine the main idea. So our title today is March to the Sea. So you should be thinking, how does the author describe the march to the sea? Why did Sherman's men march to the sea? Write down your question in box 1, and then get ready to underline the main idea as you follow along while I read out loud. Union Major General William T. Sherman's campaign to capture Atlanta was the first step in his plan to crush Georgia. In the summer of 1864, Sherman pinned Southern forces in Atlanta, then forced them to abandon it. His troops rested there from September 2nd to November 12th. Wow, that's a long time. Then burned the city to the ground. His men then marched west to Savannah on Georgia's Atlantic coast. All along their route, the soldiers burned towns, leaving civilians homeless and hungry. Sherman said he wanted to make all Georgia howl. He did. When the Union Army arrived in Savannah, the Confederates could not resist and surrender after a 15-minute fight. On September 21st, Savannah's Confederate commander, General Hardee, had his troops leave the city. Union troops paraded through the streets celebrating their victory. So we're thinking, how did the author describe Sherman's march to the sea? And we know that first he captured Atlanta and burned it to the ground. And then he continued toward Savannah, burning down houses and cities as he went. Write down your main idea in box 1 and then track the fake guns picture and caption for box 2. Fake guns. Sherman's men ran into small Confederate fortifications along the march to the sea. Sometimes the fort's cannons were actually logs that had been cut and painted to look as though they were big guns from a distance. This painting shows Union soldiers' surprise at discovering they were only threatened by logs. 2A. Why did the Confederates disguise logs as cannons? Please be silent as you do that. I'm completing a recording. Well, they probably disguised the logs as cannons because they wanted the Union soldiers to be intimidated and scared to capture their fort. Press pause to write down your answer and then play to get started. It says, what effect did these actions have on the Union soldiers? Well, our text says that they were surprised when they discovered they were only threatened by logs. So we know that the Union soldiers at first believed that the logs were cannons because they were far away, and when they got closer, they were surprised that they had been tricked. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the next box. We're on page 54 at the bottom where it says Atlanta's railroads destroyed. Confederate General John Hood commanded the troops inside Atlanta. As he retreated from the city, he had his men destroy Atlanta's railroad roundhouse and burn the railroad cars. 3A. Why did General Hood command his troops to destroy the Confederate railroad? Well, we know that the Union and the Confederate soldiers used the railroad to ship supplies and soldiers quickly across the country. General Hood did not want the Union soldiers to have access to the railroad in the South because that meant they could travel to different cities in the South faster and take them over. So he had his men destroy the railroad so that the Union soldiers could not use the railroad to travel in between southern cities and take them over. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the second box. We're at the caption that says the city of Atlanta is conquered. This home was built on the outskirts of Atlanta. Unfortunately for its owner, it sat right along the Confederate Army's main defense line and was riddled with Union cannon fire. The question asks us, based on the picture and the caption, what is the meaning of the phrase riddled with cannon fire? Well, I can see that there are a lot of holes in the house. It's been completely abandoned. I mean, at one point you can even see through the entire house because there's a huge chunk of the house missing. And this is what the author is referring to when he says riddled with cannon fire. So I would say the phrase riddled with cannon fire means that the house was destroyed by cannons. Track the picture and caption Savannah's commander for the fourth box. Confederate General William J. Hardee commanded the soldiers inside the city of Savannah. Although his few troops could not possibly have won against Sherman's large force, the defeat tarnished his military reputation. And the question asks us to describe William J. Hardee. We know he was a commander of Confederate forces in the city of Savannah. And when he surrendered, people lost respect for him as a military leader. His reputation was tarnished. So that means people lost respect for him. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the last caption that says a victory parade through Savannah. This sketch shows Sherman's victory parade through Savannah. Union soldiers spared this attractive old city. 4B. How does Sherman's treatment of Savannah compare to his treatment of Atlanta? Well, Sherman did not destroy Savannah. They did not burn it. They did not destroy any part of the city. They left it exactly as it was, and our text says because it was attractive. But we know in Atlanta, they destroyed the homes, and our text tells us that they burned the city to the ground. So Sherman burned the city of Atlanta to the ground, but he did not destroy any part of Savannah. Write down your answer, press pause if you need to, and play when you're ready for the paragraph. It says, how does the author describe the march to the sea? You'll want to use your main idea, and you'll also want to talk about Atlanta being conquered and how Sherman responded to Savannah. You have plenty of time. Silently get started.